Hello and welcome to this TechMonitor interview brought to you in association with Tanium and endpointX. Today we are going to explore the evolution of endpoint management within the modern enterprise. We'll discuss the ongoing impact of automation coupled with challenges surrounding data analytics and artificial intelligence. If one message is clear, it's this: we need to reconsider the way we think about the management and security of our IT assets. And so we're going to cover this topic, many other topics as well, in the company of Dan Jones, Senior Security Advisor EMEA at Tanium, and Dan Stead, a Director at endpointX. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to TechMonitor. Looking forward to the insights that you're going to share. Dan Jones, let me start with you. A brief overview, if you wouldn't mind, of automation. How has it evolved and what impact is it having today?
Thanks very much, John. I think today you'll see probably the results of a lot of hard fought yards that have materialized from blood, sweat, and tears that people have put in when they realize there just isn't enough people in the equation to meet the demands, particularly in cybersecurity, of an ever growing, ever evolving cyber threat. People have to invest in that level of automation and maybe even advance into orchestration and machine learning, dare I say, AI at the very end of that, before they're really able to sort of get on top of some of the pressing issues that they face every single day. But from my perspective, and you and I have spoken previously about this, cybersecurity is really a people problem from my perspective that's dressed up in technology. And if we don't invest in the technology, you can't hope to address some of the people challenges that you face, not least of which there just isn't enough of them in the frontline roles, whether you're a private sector or a public sector organization.
Very good. So, Dan Stead, how do you see the adoption of automation and AI taking effect in the modern enterprise?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that in the last 18 months, really, we've seen a real explosion of people finding genuine operational use cases for AI, particularly within the cyber and the enterprise technology space. I think that a lot of the activities that businesses need to be able to achieve, they need very precise results and they need to be very, very accurate in what it is that they're trying to automate. And what we've seen over the past 18 months, as I said, is a real amount of progress in terms of how these tools can be used by these teams in a sensible way. And so that importantly, the businesses can start to trust the results of these automated processes.
And does that vary across vertical markets, or is it much the same across the entirety of the economy?
Yeah, I think it absolutely does vary across the different markets. So at EndpointX, we work with a wide range of organizations across all sectors, from financial services to healthcare to companies that are involved in things like mining. And they've all got very different challenges. We've got a customer that is involved, as I say, in mining. They have some very heavy equipment, things like kilns, that if you get a change wrong, if you apply an automated process through some AI and it doesn't do the job correctly, that kiln can come off heat. It could be weeks of a production outage. In the same breath, you've got organizations that are involved in the manufacture of drugs. There are a lot of compliance and regulation around that. You've got to have the provenance of what it is that you're doing in order to even to allow that process to take place from an automated perspective. So yeah, a real wide range of challenges. And we see them in organizations of all sorts of sizes as well. I think that in some of these larger organizations, we manage people with 150, 200,000 endpoints in scope. Now here, to your point, Dan, I think that the problem can always be a people and a process problem. So there is complexity. People may be not sure who needs to approve something, why it needs to be approved, who's going to do the management of that moving forward. On the flip side of it, you've got these much smaller organizations that, because of the advent of cloud-based services, because of the proliferation of AI services, these are organizations that previously probably didn't really have access to this type of technology to help their cyber hygiene programs. And all of a sudden they're faced with this, and what do? I think the task for them is to help understand how to harness these things in a sensible way.
Okay, very good. There's lots to unpack there. I feel as if we should take a quick step backwards. Dan Jones, help us out with a definition of autonomous endpoint management.
So for this, if I was to try and put it in an analogy, this is essentially like the self-driving car equivalent, but on your digital estate, particularly where it becomes relevant to IT operations and cybersecurity. You want to be able to allow the digital estate to really take care of itself. And how far you go in that, though, depends wholly on the people and the culture of that organization. So you can go almost as to the nth degree to let the digital estate take care of everything from patching to updates to user account management to installed software and reclamation, right the way back to okay, every one of those aspects requires a human in the loop decision, but at the very end or at the very beginning, it really is open ended as to how far you can go, but it's customizable. But that autonomous piece is essentially in that space.
Really interesting. So, caveats aside, Dan Jones, what are the key benefits of this approach?
I think you're really looking at it from a public sector point of view. I would see and have seen on a number of instances. This is about being able to reinvest the valuable resources you've got in people onto higher value activity that does still require a human in the loop decision to be made and judgment to be given. But in a private sector capacity, you're talking about the bottom line more often than not. You're looking at pound, shilling, and pence in the UK, and other currencies are available to be able to get a reinvestment of vital resources and reduce costs, or at least streamline those costs in managing and maintaining an ever complex digital estate, whether it's cloud services, on premise, or a hybrid of all that could be involved in that space.
Very good. So, Dan Jones has talked about the benefits. Can I just pose that actually, with any introduction of a new technology, sometimes there are some disbenefits as well. There are some barriers. What are those potential challenges, and perhaps how do you overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, I think computing has always involved an element of automation, whether that is using something like cron to schedule a job or write a batch file to help you do something that you're going to be able to repeat time and time again. I think historically there's been quite a high barrier for entry to be able to use tools like that. So whether you are coding in a kind of compiled or interpreted language, there's a little bit of a movement. Whether you're having to invest a lot of time and effort in understanding a particular syntax of a tool to use it. That has started to ebb away, I think, with the introduction of a lot of AI-generated tooling. There's been I guess, a democratization of the process by which people can start to affect change on the estate. But I think inherent in that is a risk that just because you make it easy to press a button, you still need to know what's going to happen when that button is pressed, and also to understand the results of that. And that's something that we see time and again, and is one of the main risks I think that businesses that we work with highlight, that they don't necessarily want everything to be super easy when the potential consequences of that can be disastrous.
If I could just come back on that a little bit, I think there's to emphasize the point, I think there's a lot of this that is definitely around putting the ability for what you can automate and what you can indeed benefit from that investment in technology in the hands of the people that are going to realize that benefit. We've tried in my previous career to leverage, exactly to Dan Stead's point, the overheads of getting access to. It's almost been a privilege to be able to have engineers on task looking at playbooks, looking at various orchestration activities, but they then still need time to go and get from the frontline teams to help them understand what they could automate. It never really materialized the return on investment. So if you can get access to the ability to give the users that are going to realize that benefit and be the recipients of it, the hands-on capacity to be able to make their own day jobs easier, they will absolutely do so. It's really about how you get to that point of being automation and orchestration. Indeed, in the case of Tanium, very much around autonomous endpoint management. You've got to get it to the people that are going to benefit from it, from my experience.
That's great. We've got time for two more questions. I'll put those questions to both of you. Short answers, if you could, please. We've talked about the here and now, but what about the future? Where does automation and endpoint management go from here?
I think that's a great question, John. I think what you're looking at really is Some things in cybersecurity, particularly if I focus on that, are not exactly going to make movies and get high class actors in to come and tell a story. They're really kind of basic cyber hygiene activities that don't make headlines. But if we're really going to leverage the power of what we've got today, and it's not that far away, it's about getting the investment in that technology, and you can start to realize that this vision of a better tomorrow, where your digital estate is always up to date, it's always got the latest information, it's in real time giving you the feedback and sensing what's happening. Your frontline defenders can actually proactively be able to defend your vital communication systems, means that actually we're really able to leverage the future today rather than tomorrow. I don't think we need to wait that long for for what I think is here and hands on today.
Dan Stead, you agree with that? Actually, the future is here and now, or there's something down the track?
Yeah, I think Dan's saying exactly the right things. I think that in the next, in the next 12, 18 months, we're going to start to see these solutions, platforms like Tanium become much more context aware. And I think there'll be an increased level of confidence from businesses, from people involved in cybersecurity and technology operations, that these tools can be trusted and that they understand proactively what the right decisions to take, and not necessarily from a reactive perspective either. This is technology that's going to look after itself, and it's going to preempt issues and deal with them in a sensible way.
Very good. Final question to both of you. Dan Stead, I'll stick with you first. Why? I guess this is a recap. Why autonomous endpoint management, and why endpointX?
I think why you're going to improve your cyber hygiene. You're going to become more efficient. You're going to free up your employees to spend more of their brain power doing important things that are going to drive your business forward. It's going to free you up to do that. And from an endpointX perspective, so me and the gang at endpointX have been working in kind of regulated enterprise environments for 25 years. We've got a lot of experience. We also work with companies across all of these different sectors trying to implement these modern tools. And in doing that, we build and we learn ourselves every time. So from an endpointX perspective, yeah, we're excited to work with potential new partners to drive better solutions for these teams.
Very good. Thank you for that. And Dan Jones, why autonomous endpoint management, and why Tanium?
Well, that's easy from a Tanium point of view. Tanium is the market leader in this space. But from a benefits to customers, I think this is all about the need to be able to respond and have the confidence and certainty in your chosen technology to really make the investment that you've got in your people a certainty as well. And for me, automation and orchestration and autonomous endpoint management is really the only way that you're going to be able to do that. We have to be able to move organizations to have a speed of relevance that is relatable to today's threats, today's IT operations and expectations. You can't do that without investing in automation. And Tanium has a lot of that available out of the box, ready to go.
Very good. Thank you both. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you, Dan Jones. Thank you, Dan Stead, for your insights, your expertise as well. So as organizations evolve, they become more complex in every area. Think people, processes, and technology. Tanium has just released a new research report with over 20 of the world's largest enterprises discussing their real-world, on-the-ground challenges. Really is a lot of good insight in that report. We've put a link to it at the bottom of this video. You should find it just there. And if you want to find out more about Tanium and how the team is addressing the modern enterprise, then head over to tanium.com. That's tanium.com. Equally, endpointX is at endpointx.com. And one more plug. If you like videos like this, you want to see more videos like this, your destination is, of course, TechMonitor.ai. As I say, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.